Mind, body, and spirit. The spirit and soul. Let's try to talk about the Trinity explained today. And I'm going to share a principle from the Course in Miracles that helps us understand the Trinity explained. Hey everyone, James Nussbaumer, and thanks for joining me in another For a Better Life podcast on YouTube. And I'm just thrilled to be back here doing these again. Ben from Eugene, Oregon had messaged in, messaged in. From the old days, I still say written in. And he's a retired contractor. And I'm wondering, Ben, if you're the same Ben that I met back in 2016 at the Transformation Conference in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. If you are, send me a message. Let me know if it's the same Ben I'm thinking of. But anyways, you had said, because this guy I met in the Transformation Conference, and we chatted for a while, and we kind of became friendly after the conference was over and lost touch, but he's still on my subscriber list, and he's from Eugene, Oregon, same. So I think it might be the same Ben. So let's get into the Trinity explained and understanding mind, body, and spirit. And keep in mind, if you hear some background noise going on, I'm doing this in a park setting across the street from my studio in a nice little park. So it's just kind of nice to be out here with the just beautiful weather today. But often we try to ask our human thinking, which is ego-based, and I'll explain that in a minute. We often try to ask ourselves for the Trinity to be explained. But as we humans, we just get too caught up in misperceived notions, as I write about. Perception in general always involves some misuse of your mind, which basically are projections based on fear and doubt, which is the ego in us, because it brings your mind, body, spirit into areas of uncertainty. In the ego aspect in us humans, which is based on a foundation of fear and doubt and judgment and the like, is always uncertain. So it gets confused when it wants to, start thinking about mind, body, and spirit. So otherwise, there wouldn't be the ego wouldn't project fear and doubt on a lot of situations. But in book one of my series called The Master of Everything, I dive into this pretty deeply, and where we talk about the mind is very active, and when it chooses to be separate and conflicting, it can only perceive, but it does desire to know, let me say, and chooses carefully out of uncertainty when it is perceiving. And then with that uncertainty, the mind based on fear and doubt, the ego-based mind projects always the worst, because you're thinking on the ego is based on fear and doubt, judgment, criticism, sarcasm, and all that kind of wrong-minded negativity that we as humans naturally have within us. But even when we think about the process of our mind, body, spirit, we see it in a physical sense, often relating it to our brain, but rather than our connection to the universe. Now let's look at the universe as within us, not what we see in the glory of the midnight sky and the stars and all that. Let's not see that as the universe. Let's see all that midnight glory in the sky as a projection of our real inward self, that universe, to the material world. So the universe, when I speak of, is what is within us and our connection to one another. Just as you're, I hope, on the edge of your seat, or laying back on the couch with your feet propped up listening to me right now, or comfortably maybe sitting in a park as well, like I'm doing, with your earbuds in, relaxing and thinking about me. Well, that connection is the universe in all of us. But, even when we think about the process of our mind, body, spirit, we see it in a physical sense. We still want to think of spirit in the woo-woo kind of thing, but often relating it to our brain. And the mind is not the brain. And sometimes we're led to think that the mind is inside the brain. Well, that's what the ego would like to think. Now, remember, the brain is of the body. The mind is your truest essence. It's your connection with your creator, that I call God, and many of us do, but whatever name you want to use is fine. The mind is beyond the body, and a little fraction of the mind that is slipped into a dream of sort that I'm not going to get into today which I explain in detail in the first book of the series called The Master of Everything, uh, makes some projections of fear and doubt. And it's in a dream of sort away from its true home, heaven. But we don't want to dive too far into that today. Let's talk a little bit about the Trinity. Now, remember what I said a little bit ago about the universe being that interconnection. If you're feeling me right now and you're liking this message and you're kind of waiting for me to get through and you feel, though, that I'm hitting home where you want to think, the way you want to think, then that is the universe, you and I connected as one. And as well, the universe I talk about here does not entail, like I'd said, the stars, the moon, and the galaxies that we gaze at on that beautiful night. But it can be, because it also is a reflection of our inward beauty that we're projecting to the material world. So if we can understand that concept, that allows us to create the life that we want while in this world. And that's why I urge you to learn how to do mindfulness meditation techniques. And if you haven't, in the description area down below will be a link to a blog article that I'd written on this same subject. And you can, here at YouTube, you can click on that and it will take you to my blog, where I will have embedded this podcast today in there. So if you're already at my blog and you're listening to this podcast, then you'll see right there where it asks you, I urge you to learn mindfulness meditation, right in the article. And on the sidebar, and if you're on a cell phone or a smartphone, so to speak, iPhone or smartphone, then I believe the sidebar is like down at the end of the article. So there's information and data for there to learn how to do mindfulness meditation if you have not already. But let's get back to say, you know, the universe I speak of here is literally meant to be all that is real and true. Of course, externally, the physical universe we can see does support our physical existence, so to speak, but also in the material sense of the material world. For example, what I'm trying to say is, let's look at, say, photosynthesis in plants, and the plankton in the ocean produce oxygen that we need in order to breathe. Well, that's a part of, you know, the inward projection that we are making of the world to take care of ourselves. Once again, that's explained deeply in the first book of the series, and then I continue in the second book called Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom. By the way, if you don't own both those books, I hope that you will. And then the third book, I hope that you'll get too, called And Then I Knew My Abundance. And all three, I call them the trilogy put together. And they're all three, I've been told, are page turners. So if you don't have them now, I hope that you'll get all three books. And you can find them at my website. And when you get to my website, if you're confused where to go, which you shouldn't be, there's plenty of places to click on. You can always go to the About page. It says About/books. And anyways, by the way, I need to mention, too, all three books by Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, a mainstream publisher that I'm so happy with, an American mainstream publisher. And the story of how I landed that publisher is also in book one of the series. But what I'm trying to get to now that I'm so excited about is book 4 is soon to be released. It's in the editing process right now, and it's the 4th book of the series, and it's called, you know, Live Your Own Dream, Not Someone Else's. And it's about the war that we have against ourselves. So, you know, I hope that you'll grab on to what I write about. Well, A Course in Miracles gives us some food for thought and a principle, and it goes deeper into the important respect that the laws that rule the physical universe as a reflection of who we are beyond the material world, spirit and soul, if you will. And I think I've been explaining that a little bit so far till now. But I mean that violation of these laws threatens our mind, body, spirit survival. So what I mean by it, when we're in violation of these laws, for example, even in this world, when we pollute the oceans or we destroy plant life, we are destroying our support system, and thus we are also destroying ourselves and keeping yourself from your true potential in mind, body, and spirit. So let's move on internally now, meaning within our true essence or spirit and soul, if you will. that inner altar where we abide, altar, A-L-T-A-R, like an altar in church. That inner altar where we abide is the universe that supports our survival as well, both emotionally and psychology as humans. So, the internal equivalent to oxygen is love, we could say, which comes from our spirit. So what really is spirit? Well, you're probably wondering. The Course in Miracles gives us this principle, and it says, in this world, your perfection is unwitnessed. And what the Course is trying to teach us there is, and I'll repeat that, in this world, your perfection is unwitnessed. The Course is trying to teach us that it's quite simple. It is the total, undeniable truth that you are. And this is not perceived by us, but it is known. There's something within you that you know is true about you, but you often sometimes cannot explain that. Does that make sense? I think it does, and I hope it does for you. But, in book 2 of the series, and I dig into, book 2 of the series is called Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom. And if we are proceeding out of greed in our daily lives, we just cannot find truth. So the function of perception is to interpret truth, but interpret truth through our spirit of essence and lead our life that way. Now I'm getting at the Trinity explained here, so bear with me. And this permits you to misinterpret the body sometimes as who you truly are in an attempt to escape from the conflict that we're making by thinking the body is who we are. So knowledge, real true knowledge, does not do anything, especially not interpret in a material sense for the world, because it already knows. So all we can do when I'm saying we interpret what's going on through our spirit, because as humans, there's that something in us that knows, that I had said, okay, that really has knowledge. But it's something beyond our material body, behind our physical body. It's our true nature at home. It's the Holy Spirit in us, that little inkling in us that knows but can't explain it in the physical sense. Then that spirit will maybe interpret it for us in certain ways. Like, for example, expressing beauty by seeing a full moon one night with all the stars and the Big Dipper out and all that. Maybe a shooting star darting across the sky. Beautiful sight. But your mind will return to its proper function. What I mean is leaving behind all your subordinate functions the ego does, which is all about the body made, and only when it wills to know will the body get afraid and more fear and doubt coming in, because the body itself just can't really know. It's spirit within that knows. Let me try to clear this up by saying then the body becomes the service of spirit, where perception is changed, and this will produce gradual overriding of perception by knowledge. In other words, perception is not really knowledge. It's something we think is true, we perceive to be true. But when we put it in the hands of spirit, the perception is overridden by knowledge. That gut feeling that we have becomes more true, and we rely on it more when we're trying to set goals for our life path and living our purpose and passion. When truth and knowledge are one, you will know this as being your true spirit. Or, many like to say spirit and soul. They're just words, however you'd want to describe it, and more clearly, and then we can more clearly understand the Trinity being explained. The Trinity, when we say the God, we say God, or we say the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, all as one, not separate, not three different things. One. It's all the part of your mind, all together as one. The Trinity is that will hang on to perception and help you move it over to knowledge. Work with that to interpret it for the body while we're in this world, to move it over to knowledge. Spirit is where the power is to create. And that's where our creativity abides. And the more it creates, the more mind, body, spirit, perception will cross the bridge, we may say, to knowledge. So knowledge will increase as we travel over the bridge from perception to knowledge. So perception needs translation and transcending of our thoughts, but see, knowledge doesn't need any transcendence. Doesn't need any translation either, because knowledge is what it is. It's one. It's the Father coming through, the Holy Spirit relaying the message from the Father, the Holy Spirit as the extension of light from the Father into you as the Son of God, the child of God. Traditional terms, the Son. The light coming from the Father is the Holy Spirit, helping you to the Holy Spirit in this world, helping you to understand and make it knowledge instead of perception. There you have the Father, the Holy Spirit, the Son, whatever order you want to put it into, the Son of God, the child of God, traditional terms, the Son of God. But and this is what Jesus was here to teach us. And not to say that, he was Christ or he was the Son of God and we're not. He was here to teach us that it's within us all and that we're all interconnected. And many others before Jesus himself. And on you can mention names, and even later too, with everyone else that we call the saints or certain prophets. They're all trying to show us this, that we're all connected. We are all of this light. So making it all one, say, beam of light, like a ray of sunshine, I put in my first book, The Master of Everything. So all things made by the separation is the thought system of the ego based on fear and doubt that makes us think that we are separate from God. In other words, that God our Father is up there somewhere looking down on us. No, that's the separation. We are at one. We are dreaming of life in this world, but we're really still at home in heaven. And again, I dive into detail, clearly understandable detail on that in book 1 of the series called The Master of Everything. And it continues in the rest of the series as well. So, but in the Trinity explained, spirit has no conflicting degrees that are either measured or translated. So there's no transcendence other than spirit helping the ego to transcend itself out of fear and doubt and connect with spirit. God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are each a level in the whole mind of God. The Trinity explained, and are the only levels capable of unity, capable of wholeness, capable of that oneness, capable at true love and intimacy in a marital relationship. It's that closeness at oneness without doubts and fear of separation. Mind, body, and spirit is union while in this world. And you and I and everyone around us together as the one whole, W-H-O-L-E, is the one whole mind of God, are the Trinity eternally. Ben of Eugene, Oregon, I hope this helped. And by the way, please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Everyone listening, please support my work. You'll notice at my website, if you're there already, and if you're not at YouTube, in the description area down below, I will have links to get you to a detailed blog article about this podcast today. And I hope that you'll support my work. And I hope that you'll also support the work of others that I promote, because let's face it, if you like what I write about and you're kind of excited about the way I interpret things and so forth, and I don't have all the answers, and so I have, I guess we could say, colleagues, associates out there that are more experts at certain things than I am. For example, marriage counseling or something like that. I'm not going to give you any advice on that, because I've failed at my marriages, but I can lead you to people that do, and so forth, and different other things. So please support my work, and if you can support me in any way possible, I would appreciate it. I hope that you'll join my newsletter. There's a free version of my newsletter called Everyday Miracles. You'll see that at my website. And then whenever you're ready, I have a subscription only version called the Mastermind Challenge, where it's what happens here is we dive in together as me, the author, you, the reader, and together we share ideas and get into understanding more things like the Trinity explained, where we make our lives better so we can begin manifesting our dreams and living the life we truly want. That's what this is all about. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, God bless. James Nussbaumer signing off.